Hi friends, how are you? So this is the project report, a study on solid waste management. It's for the bachelor degree course. जो भी बैचलर्स कर रहा है उसे एंड पे ये प्रोजेक्ट सबमिट करना पड़ता है, तो ये वीडियो उन्हीं लोगों के लिए जो बैचलर्स डिग्री कोर्स कर रहे हैं. आफ्टर कंप्लीशन ऑफ द कोर्स दे हैव टू सबमिट दिस प्रोजेक्ट. So this project is on the topic of solid waste management. So let's see, these are the table of contents. You have to mention all this in this project. First is introduction. You have to give firstly introduce this project. What is management of waste? What is this? What are its disadvantages, advantages? Review of the literature, objective of the study, research methodology, waste management, a boost for the Indian economy. सूरत है सक्सेस स्टोरी. एक स्टोरी हमें इसमें मेंशन करनी है जो कि है सूरत. ये एक सक्सेस स्टोरी है अबाउट दिस वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट. देन फाइंडिंग्स एंड कंक्लूजन. लास्ट पे क्या कंक्लूजन निकलता है वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, हमें क्यों वेस्ट को मैनेज करना ज़रूरी है. लेट्स सी फर्स्ट द इंट्रोडक्शन. Solid waste management has emerged as one of the most massive developmental challenges in urban India. Solid waste management को हम एब्रीवेशन देते हैं SWM. ये एक मोस्ट मैसिव डेवलपमेंट चैलेंज है अर्बन इंडिया में, ज़्यादा अर्बन एरियाज़ में. Okay, numerous studies indicate that the unsafe disposal of waste generates dangerous gases and lethates due to microbial decomposition, climate conditions, refuse characteristics and land filling operations. ये तो हमें पता है कि जितना हम वेस्ट, आजकल तो घरों में बहुत ज़्यादा वेस्ट निकलता है, ठीक है. सो दिस ऑल प्रोजेक्ट इज़ अबाउट दैट वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, कि हम वेस्ट, जितना भी वेस्ट हमारे घरों से निकलता है उसका मैनेजमेंट हम कैसे करें, उसको हम कैसे मैनेज करें, हम किस चीज़ को रिसाइकल कर पाएंगे, किस वेस्ट को रिसाइकल करके हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं, वो सब हम इसमें देखेंगे. सो दीज आर वेरी सिंपल पॉइंट्स यू हैव टू मेंशन इन दिस प्रोजेक्ट. Due to microbial decomposition, climate condition, refuse characteristic and land filling operations, according to the 12th schedule of the 74th Constitution Amendment Act of 1992, urban local bodies are responsible for keeping cities and towns clean. However, most ULBs lack adequate infrastructure and face various strategical and institutional weaknesses, such as poor institutional capacity, financial constraints, and a lack of political will. While many Indian ULBs do receive government assistance, almost all of them continue to be financially fragile. India has already exhausted all available landfill sites, and the concerned ULBs do not have resources to acquire new land. Moreover, finding new landfill sites is a difficult task, as local officials are averse to setting aside land in their jurisdiction for waste that come from other areas. Various legislations have been passed for regulating the manner of waste disposal. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs have together rolled out policies and programs that addresses these issues. However, most of these have failed to achieve their objectives due to lack of clarity and awareness amongst the stakeholders and poor enforcement by the regulators. Every organization functions within a series of forces and factors which make up for its environment. Environmental forces have traditionally been defined as those factors that are outside the control of the organization, but we believe that the environment is a set of all those factors that affect the functioning of an organization in one way or the other. The environment can be divided into three levels: macro, micro, meso. तीन लेवल्स पे डिवाइड करता है. मैक्रो मीन्स बड़ा, माइक्रो मीन्स छोटा, एंड मैसो इज इन द मिडल. Be it an organization, industry, or economy, one element or stigma that haunts the environment is wastage. At the most basic level, that of an organization, waste can be defined as raw material, residue, energy, or any other factor of production. Sometimes even includes finished product, which holds no utility for the organization or those potential has not been tapped satisfactorily. In layman terms, we think of waste only as solid waste, sewage, garbage, paperwork, extra. But the fact is that waste is a much broader term. हम सॉलिड वेस्ट सीवेज गार्बेज इन्हीं सबको हमेशा क्या कहते हैं, दीज आर द वेस्ट. लेकिन अगर देखा जाए तो ये एक ब्रॉड टर्म होती है. Okay, let's see. For example, a senior consultant quits an organization where the information management is poor, is wastage of intellectual capital. A manual server in comparison to a computerized one, when takes more than to service acquire, is waste of time and potential business. A plant where different designs of shoes are made in different units, whereas through the injective molding technology can be made on the same assembly line, is wastage of production potential. A container load of garments come back as rejects from the importer, is wastage of finished products, even though they can be disposed of in the domestic market at a lesser price than the price lost is the wastage. The above mentioned example prove that waste management is not only important for the tangible product procedures but also for the service industry. Now let us take a look at waste from the social and consumer's point of view. तो ये वाला भी लिख लेना, इसके जो परसेंटेज है वो ध्यान में रखना कि कितना किस में परसेंटेज वेस्ट इंक्लूड होता है. ओके, द USA alone with only 6% of the world's population consumes 30% of its resources. 6% वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन में से ये कंज्यूम 30% रिसोर्सेज करता है. इन द US वुड एंड पेपर थ्रोन अवे ईच ईयर इज इनफ टू हीट 5 मिलियन होम्स फॉर 200 years. US में क्या होता है, वुड और पेपर जो फेंका जाता है, सिर्फ वुड और पेपर जो रोज़ फेंका जाता है वो इनफ है कि वहाँ के 5 मिलियन घरों को जला सके. Then 20% of the world's population consumes over 70% of its material resources and owns over 80% of its wealth. This richer 20% of the world's population is not exclusively responsible for growing, supplying, or creating these resources. They are the product of the whole world's labor. Then who gives them the right to consume 70% of these resources? The fact of the matter is that in order to let the elite live at the standard they do, the majority has to go without even the basics. This is one of the if not the largest causes of world poverty. This fact is in sharp contrast to our traditional Western explanation of why the third world is so poor. For example, we are very accustomed to the belief that there is a global shortage of food, but this is far from the truth. The world already produces enough grain to supply every single individual with over 2500 calories per day. Mind you, this figure does not include fruit, groundnuts or root vegetables. So you will see this is all, ये सारा इसी के बारे में लिखा गया है. Now we will see the review of literature. There is a large volume of literature on the different aspects of waste management in India. For example, in her paper Municipal Solid Waste Management in India, a critical review, Professor Sudha Goyal suggests that regular monitoring and data collection are essential for designing an efficient SWM system. To improve SWM practices in the country, Goyal recommended establishing a centralized database on ULB experiences in SWM and using modern tools and technologies such as remote sensing, GIS, and mathematics optimization. Meanwhile, in their 2016 paper, Rajkumar Joshi and Sirajuddin Ahmed argue that lack of awareness and technical knowledge, inadequate funding, and ineffective implementation of laws and policies are the reasons for the failure of municipal solid waste management. Samdutta Banerjee, for his part, highlights the challenge of infrastructure. Banerjee argues that private participation in SWM must be encouraged to ease the burden on the public coffers. Chavan and Zambier have also observed that the essential inadequacies of SWM in India are in treatment methods and techniques. In his paper, Sustainable Solid Waste Management in India, NEPU explores ways to reduce the quality of solid waste. In Mumbai alone, the open burning of solid waste and landfill fires emit nearly 20,000 tons per year of air pollutants on land. Amongst other ways to repurpose waste, such as by creating fly ash bricks, NEPU recommends the integration of informal recycling into the formal system by training the employing waste pickers for the door-to-door collection of waste and allowing them to sell the recyclables they collect. Gopal Krishna, in his work Why Urban Waste Continues to Follow the Path of Least Resistance, argues that SWM cannot improve unless institutional and financial issues are addressed. Krishna criticizes the 2016 SWM rules framed by the MOEFCC. Government of India stated that they failed to make any provision against the NIMBY syndrome or provide a mechanism for the implementation of extended procedure responsibility. The paper suggests that the rules should be incentivize systems and where producers minimize waste and take responsibility for the reuse and recycling of used products. In this paper, Sustainable Municipal Solid Waste Management in India, a policy agenda, Shyamala Mani and Satpal Singh suggest that the policy agenda for sustainable SWM needs to drive behavioral change amongst citizens, elected representatives and decision makers to minimize waste and minimize reuse and recycling. तो हमें जितना हो सके उतना मिनिमाइज करना चाहिए हमें रीयूज़ और रिसाइकलिंग. मिनिमाइज वेस्ट का करना चाहिए और मैक्सिमाइज करना चाहिए रीयूज़ और रिसाइकलिंग का. ऑब्वियसली मिनिमाइज जब हम वेस्ट करेंगे क्योंकि हमें मिनिमम वेस्ट हमें प्रोडक्ट निकालने हो उसके लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए, बोटल्स अलग से निकालनी चाहिए और जो प्लास्टिक चीज़ होती है वो हमें अलग से इंक्लूड करना चाहिए और जो बाकी चीज़ें होती है वो अलग से इंक्लूड करना चाहिए. देयर इज़ ऑल्सो द स्टडी ऑफ द SWM सिस्टम इन अर्बन इंडिया बाय कार्थिकेयन et al. It finds the failure of ULBs in providing proper SWM service and the general lack of awareness to be the main reasons for poor waste management in India. Thus, the rationale for encouraging private sector participation is to gain efficiency, expertise, and technology, not finance. If the private sector provides higher standards of waste management service at the same cost or equivalent service at a lower cost compared to ULBs, then PSP should be leveraged for private sector efficiency and ameliorate the methods of waste management by ULBs. In transforming urban waste management in India, Muzamdar outlines the various tools to overcome the problems of urban waste management. The study recommends that urban waste management be streamlined using technology and that the system of SWM be made techno-economically viable and sustainable. Now the objective of the study, what are the objective of studies? हमें main objective क्या इसमें लिखना है? In this report, I have done the following: to understand wastage in general, to study the wastage scenario in the food processing industry, to study the waste management strategies in place and to give suggestions for waste management, to study the case study waste management at Delhi क्योंकि दिल्ली में सबसे ज़्यादा waste products निकलता है. Research methodology. Man is a wanting creation. His desires and research for more relevant things are unending. It is said that a whole life is considered less for knowledge, which has made the civilized man invent different ways to quiet the thirst for knowledge. One of such methods is research, which generally means search for knowledge and is done to gain familiarity with the phenomena or to achieve new insight into it. It's also done to give a true and fair picture of the characteristics of an individual or group. It also determines the frequency with which something happens, and lastly, it is an aid to test a causal relationship between different variables. In all, research refers to systematic method consisting of diagnosing the problem, formulating a hypothesis, collecting the facts, and reaching certain conclusions in the form of solutions. To conclude, it can be said that research methodology is a way to systematically solve the given research problem. Research design. Research design is the main part of starting a research, which is the foremost element of the methodology. Research is a series of advanced decisions that, taken together, comprise a master plan or model for the conduct of investigation. Research design is most statement or specifications of procedures for collecting, analyzing the information for the solution of some specific problem. After defining the problems of the project, research design includes the decision about the type of research that has to be undertaken. The available time and expense incurred is a must, which influences the accuracy and motivation of the researchers. Research design is nothing more than a framework for the study, so we must be a relevant study of the problem and employ good procedures. Research design for this project will be as follows. डाटा कलेक्शन रिसोर्सेज में प्राइमरी डाटा आएगा, डाटा कलेक्शन मेथड सर्वे मेथड में सेकेंडरी डेटा आएगा, बुक्स एंड जर्नल्स ऑन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट इंटरनेट. The primary data was collected without any reference to past results, and this was done by getting the designed questionnaire filled during face-to-face interviews with officials at Ministry of Environment and Forest, New Delhi, that was visited during the course of survey. Research assumptions for this project. It is assumed that the information provided by the respondents is true and unbiased. Now, this is the waste management, a boost for the Indian economy, the most important. What is solid waste now? पहले तो हम ये लिखेंगे ना कि सॉलिड वेस्ट क्या हुआ. पहले हम इसके बारे में थोड़ा जान लेते हैं. The sight of a dustbin overflowing and the stench rising from it. The all too familiar sights and smells of a crowded city. You look away from it and hold your nose as you cross it. Have you ever thought that you also have a role to play in the creation of this stench? That you can also play a role in the listening of this smell and making this waste bin look a little more attractive if you follow proper methods of disposal of the waste generated in the house? Look now. गलती तो हमारी भी है ना. हम रास्ते से जब निकलते हैं, वेस्ट मटेरियल प्रेजेंट होता है, उसमें से गंदी स्मेल आने लगती है, तो हम अपनी नाक बंद कर लेते हैं. तो यहाँ पे वही बात की गई है, वो हम नाक वहाँ पे बंद तो कर लेते हैं, बट ये हम नहीं सोचते हैं कि वो हमने ही किया है, उसमें भी हम ही इंक्लूडेड है. So since the beginning, humankind has been generating waste, be it the bones and other parts of animals they slaughter for their food or the wood they cut to make their carts. With the progress of civilization, the waste generated became of a more complex nature. At the end of the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution saw the rise of the world of consumers. Not only did the air get more and more polluted, but the earth itself became more polluted with the generation of non-biodegradable solid waste. Non-biodegradable are those which cannot be degraded. The increase in population and urbanization was also largely responsible for the increase in solid waste. जो पॉपुलेशन हमारी इंडिया की बढ़ गई है, वो एक मेन कारण बन चुका है कि फॉर वेस्टेज के लिए, क्योंकि जितनी ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन है उतना वेस्ट प्रोडक्ट निकल रहा है. ईच हाउस होल्ड जनरेट्स गार्बेज और वेस्ट डे इन एंड डे आउट. Items that we no longer need to do not have any further use for fall in the category of waste, and we tend to throw them away. There are different types of solid waste depending on their source. In today's polluted world, learning the correct method of handling the waste generated has become essential. Segregation is an important method of handling municipal solid waste. Segregation at source can be understood clearly by schematic representation. One of the important methods of managing and treating waste is composting. उसको कंपोस्ट करना. As the trees are growing in size and in problems such as the generation of as the trees are growing in size and in problems such as the generation of plastic waste, various municipal waste treatment and disposal methods are now being used to try and resolve these problems. One common sight in all streets is the rag picker, who plays an important role in the segregation of this waste. Garbage generated in household can be recycled and reused to prevent creation of waste to at source and reducing amount of waste thrown into the community dustbins. Types of solid waste. Solid waste can be classified into different types depending on their source. Household waste is generally classified as municipal waste, industrial waste as hazardous waste, and medical waste or hospital waste as infectious waste. म्यूनसिपल सॉलिड वेस्ट, देखो कौन कौन से वेस्ट हमारे यहाँ पाए जाते हैं. म्यूनसिपल सॉलिड वेस्ट होता है जो हमारे घरों से निकलता है वेस्ट, वो वाले वेस्ट. जो स्ट्रीट्स के वेस्ट होती है उनमें क्या क्या इंक्लूड होता है, उनमें एक तो डिब्रिस इंक्लूड होता है, सैनिटेशन इंक्लूड होता है, वेस्ट फ्रॉम स्ट्रीट्स इंक्लूड होता है, गार्बेज जो हमारे घरों में निकलता है वो सब उसमें इंक्लूड होता है. तो 1947 cities and towns in India generated an estimated 6 million tons and solid waste. In 2017, it was about 48 million tons. More than 25% of the municipal solid waste is not collected at all. 70% of the Indian cities lack adequate capacity to transport it, and there are no sanitary landfills to dispose of the waste. The existing landfills are neither well equipped or well managed and are not lined properly to protect against contamination of soil and groundwater. Over the last few years, the consumer market has grown rapidly, leading to products being packed and in cans, aluminium foils, plastics, and other such non-biodegradable items that cause incalculable harm to the environment. In India, some municipal areas have banned the use of plastics and they seem to have achieved success. For example, today one will not see a single piece of plastic in the entire district of Ladakh, where the local authorities imposed a ban on plastics in 1998. Other states should follow the example of this region and ban the use of items that cause harm to the environment. One positive note is that in many large cities, shops have begun packing items in reusable or biodegradable bags. Certain biodegradable items can also be composted and reused. In fact, proper handling of the biodegradable waste will be considered lesser the burden of solid waste that each city has to tackle. Garbage, the four broad categories: organic waste, toxic waste, recyclable, soiled. अब इसमें क्या क्या इंक्लूड होता है? ऑर्गेनिक वेस्ट में किचन का वेस्ट इंक्लूड होता है, वेजिटेबल्स जिसमें इंक्लूड होता है फ्लावर्स, लीव्स, फ्रूट्स. एंड टॉक्सिक वेस्ट में ओल्ड मेडिसिन जो हॉस्पिटल से वेस्ट आता है वो इंक्लूड होता है, केमिकल्स इंक्लूड होता है, बल्ब्स इंक्लूड होता है, स्प्रेज, कैंस, फर्टिलाइज़र एंड पेस्टिसाइड कंटेनर्स, बैटरीज एंड शू पॉलिश. रिसाइक्लेबल में पेपर आता है, ग्लास आता है, मेटल्स आता है और प्लास्टिक्स आता है. सॉइल्ड में हॉस्पिटल वेस्ट आता है सच एज क्लोथ सॉइल्ड with blood and other body fluids. There are different categories of waste generated, each take their own time to degenerate. Type of litter, approximately time it take to degenerate the litter. ये टाइम के बारे में लिखा गया है ऑन द राइट साइड, और टाइप ऑफ लिटर के बारे में लिखा गया है कि टाइप ऑफ वेस्ट के बारे में लिखा गया है. जैसे कि ऑर्गेनिक वेस्ट हमारा आता है, ये अप्रॉक्सीमेटली एक वीक से 2 वीक ले लेता है डिजेनरेट होने के लिए. पेपर Paper takes around 10 to 30 days to degenerate. Cotton cloth takes 2 to 5 months to degenerate. Wood takes 10 to 15 years to degenerate. Woolen items 1 year. Tin, aluminium and other metal items takes 10 to 500 years. सो कितना टाइम इनको लग जाता है डिजेनरेट होने में. सो हमें सोच समझ के ये वेस्ट प्रोडक्ट्स को यूज़ करना चाहिए. प्लास्टिक बैग्स 1 मिलियन ईयर. ग्लास बोटल्स अनडिटरमाइंड. देखो ग्लास की बोटल्स जो होती है वो तो अनडिटरमाइंड ही है. hazardous waste. Industrial and hospital waste is considered hazardous as they may contain toxic substances. Certain types of household waste are also hazardous. Hazardous waste can be highly toxic to humans, animals, and plants, are corrosive, highly inflammable, or explosive, and react when exposed to certain things, example gases. India generates around 7 million tons of hazardous waste every year, most of which is concentrated in 4 states: Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. Household waste that can be categorized as hazardous waste include old batteries, shoe polish, paint tins, old medicines, medicine bottles. Hospital waste contaminated by chemicals used in hospitals is considered hazardous. These chemicals include formaldehyde and phenols, which are used as disinfectants, and mercury, which is used in thermometers or equipment that measure blood pressure. Most hospitals in India do not have proper disposal facilities for these hazardous waste. In the industrial sector, the major generators of hazardous waste are the metal chemicals, paper, pesticides, dye, refining, and rubber goods industries. Direct exposure to chemicals is hazardous waste such as mercury and cyanide can be fatal. Now, hospital waste. Hospital waste is generated during the diagnosis, treatment, or immunization of human beings or animals, or in research activities in these fields, or in the production of testing of biologicals. It may include waste like sharp salts waste, disposable anatomical waste, cultures, discarded medicines, chemical wastes, etc. These are in the form of disposable syringes, swabs, bandages, body fluids, human excreta, etc. This waste is highly infectious and can be a serious threat to human health if not managed in a scientific and discriminated manner. It has been roughly estimated that of the 4 kg of waste generated in a hospital, at least 1 kg would be infected. Surveys carried out by various agencies show that the healthcare establishment in India are not given due attention of their waste management. After the notification of Biomedical Waste Handling and Management Rules 1998, these establishments are slowly streamlining the process of waste regulation, collection, treatment, and disposal. Many of the larger hospitals have either installed the treatment facilities or are in the process of doing so. Now, plastics. Plastics, with its inclusive qualities of being light yet strong and economical, and invaded every aspect of our day-to-day life. It has many advantages. It is durable, light, easy and mold, and can be adapted to different user requirements. Once hailed as a wooden material, plastic is now a serious worldwide environmental and health concern, essentially due to its non-biodegradable nature. In India, the plastic industry is growing phenomenally. Plastics have use in all sectors of the economy: infrastructure, construction, agriculture, consumer goods, telecommunication, and packaging. But the good news is that along with the growth in the used country-wide network for collection of plastic waste through a rag pickers, waste collectors and waste dealers and recycling enterprises has sprung all over the country over the last decades or so. More than 50% of the plastic waste generated in the country is recycled and used in the manufacture of various plastic products. Conventional plastics have been associated with reproductive problems in both world life and humans. Studies have shown a decline in human sperm count and quality, genital abnormalities, and a rise in the incidence of breast cancer. Dioxin, a highly carcinogenic and toxic byproduct of the manufacturing process of plastics, is one of the chemicals believed to be passed on through breast milk to the nursing infant. Burning of plastic, especially PVC, releases this dioxin and also furane into the atmosphere. Thus, conventional plastics, right from their manufacture to their disposal, are a major problem to the environment. Plastics are versatile in use that their impacts on the environment are extremely wide ranging. Careless disposal of plastic bags chokes drains, blocks the porosity of the soil, and causes problems for groundwater research. Plastic disturbs the soil microbe activity and once ingested can kill animals. Plastic bags can also contaminate foodstuffs to be leaching of toxic dyes and transfer of pathogens. In fact, a major portion of the plastic bag, that is approximately 60 to 80 of the plastic waste management in India, is collected and segregated to be recycled. The rest remains true on the ground, littered around in open drains or in unmanaged garbage dumps. Though only a small percentage lies true in is this portion that is of concern as it causes extensive damage to the environment. The plastic industry in the development world has realized the need of the environmentally acceptable modes for recycling plastic waste and has set out targets and missions. Prominent among such missions are the Plastic Waste Management Institute in Japan, the European Center for Plastics in Environment, the Plastic Waste Management Task Force in Malaysia, manufacturers, civic authorities, environmentalists, and public has begun to acknowledge the need to plastics to conform to certain guidelines, standards, and code of conduct for its use. Designing eco-friendly biodegradable plastic is the need of the labor. Though partially biodegradable plastics have been developed and used, completely biodegradable plastics based on renewable starch rather than petrochemical have also recently been developed and are in every stage of commercialization. Now, these are the sources of generation of waste materials: household carry bags, bottles, containers, trash bags, health and medicine, disposable syringes, glucose bottles, blood and urine bags, intravenous tubes, catheters, surgical gloves, hotel and catering, packaging items, mineral water bottles, plastic plates, glasses, spoons, air rail travel, mineral water bottles, plastic water waste, plastic plates, glasses, spoons, plastic bags. Segregation. Certain things that are not needed around the house are kept aside to be sold to the kabadiwala or the man who buys old items. These items are newspapers, used bottles, magazines, carry bags, old exercise books, oil cans, etc. This is one form of segregation which is done as a routine in all households in India. Separating our waste is essential as the amount of waste being generated today causes immense problem. Certain items are not biodegradable but can be reused, recycled. In fact, it is believed that a larger portion can be recycled. A part of it can be converted to compost, and only a smaller portion of it is real waste that has no use and has to be discarded. Household waste should be separated daily into different bags for the different categories of waste, such as wet and dry waste, which should be disposed of separately. One should also keep a bin for toxic waste, such as medicines, batteries, dried paint, old bulbs, and dried shoe polish. Wet waste, which consists of leftover foodstuffs, vegetables, peels, etc., should be put in a compost pit, and the compost could be used as a manure in the garden. Dry waste, consisting of cans, aluminum foils, plastics, metal, Glass and paper could be recycled if we do not dispose of the waste in a more systematic manner. More than 1400 square kilometer of land, which is the size of the city of Delhi, would be required in the country by the year 2047 to dispose of it. Door to door collection of waste is another method of segregation which is not a common practice as yet in India except in metros where some private organizations are doing such work. The rag picker plays a very important part in segregation of waste. It is now becoming more and more essential to look for methods by which the garbage load on the land can be reduced. It has been seen that at present segregation of waste at resource level seems to be best. A large number of NGOs, non-governmental organizations are working in the field of solid waste management such as Clean Ahmedabad Abhiyan in Ahmedabad, Wastewise in Bangalore, Mumbai Environmental Action Group in Mumbai, and Vatavanan in Srishti in Delhi. They are all successfully creating awareness among the citizens about their rights and responsibilities to solid waste and the cleanliness of their city. These organizations promote environmental education and awareness in schools and involve communities in the management of solid waste. The role of the rag picker. Rag picker are the people who are actually going through the garbage bins to pick out the rags. These rag pickers, women, children, and men from the lowest rag in the society, are a common sight in most cities and towns around the country. Rag picking is considered the most manual of all activities, and it is people who have no other alternative that are generally driven to it. Rag pickers contribute a great deal to waste management as they scavenge the recyclable matter, thereby saving the municipality of the cost of time of collecting and transporting this to the dumps. The rag picker has a special role to play in the segregation of waste in India. He is one of the focal points for the recycling of waste. He is the person who, in spite of all the dangers that he faces, goes on relentlessly picking through the garbage bin, looking for waste that could be useful to him. He sells all the material he picks to the wholesalers and retailers, who in turn sell it to the industry that uses this waste matter as raw material. The main items of collection are plastics, paper bottles, and cans. Rag pickers are well coordinated in their method of working among themselves. They have a good understanding for operating by area. Each group takes specific items from the bins. It has been observed that more and more women and children are getting involved in the business of rag picking. This is a matter of concern as these children, who should be spending their time in schools either studying or playing, are instead putting themselves at risk by handling waste. While picking through waste, the rag picker puts himself at a great risk and is always prone to diseases as the waste that he rummages through can be infected. We can indirectly help the rag picker by carefully segregating the waste that is generated at homes, thereby facilitating his research for materials that are useful to him. He will not to scavenge in the bins for long hours. Waste can be segregated as biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Biodegradable waste include organic waste, example kitchen waste, vegetables, fruits, flowers, leaves from the garden, and paper. Non-biodegradable waste can be further segregated into recyclable waste, plastics, paper, glass, metal, extra. Toxic waste, old medicines, paints, chemicals, bulbs, spray cans, fertilizers and pesticides, containers, batteries, shoe polish. Soiled hospital waste such as clothes soiled with blood and other body fluids. Toxic and soiled waste must be disposed of the utmost care. रिसाइकलिंग एंड यूज रिसाइकलिंग इन्वॉल्व्स रिसाइकलिंग क्या होता है कि हमें रिसाइकल करना है कि हम जो यूज कर रहे हैं प्रोडक्ट उसको डिस्कार्ड मटेरियल, प्रोसेसिंग दीज मटेरियल्स एंड मेकिंग देम इनटू न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स. इट रिड्यूसेस, उसको क्या करना, उसको डिस्कार्ड करना उन मटेरियल्स को, उनको एक नया ही प्रोडक्ट बनाना जो हम, दैट इज़ नोन एज रिसाइकलिंग. एंड रीयूज़ मीन्स कि उस प्रोडक्ट को रीयूज़ करना, लाइक जो हम प्रोडक्ट यूज़ कर रहे हैं उसको दोबारा हम कैसे रीयूज़ कर सकते हैं. कम्युनिटी डस्ट इज देयर बाय मेकिंग द एनवायरनमेंट क्लीनर एंड द एयर मोर फ्रेश टू ब्रीथ. Surveys carried out by government and non-government agencies in the country have all recognized the importance of recycling waste. However, the methodology for safe recycling of waste has not been standardized. Studies have revealed that 7% to 15% of the waste is recycled. If recycling is done in a proper manner, it will solve the problems of waste or garbage at the community level. A large number of NGOs and private sector enterprises have taken an initiative in segregation and recycling the waste. It is being used for composting, making petals to be used in gasifiers. Extra plastics are sold to the factories that reuse them. The steps involved in the process of prior to recycling include collection of waste from doorsteps, commercial places, collection of waste from community dumps, collection picking up of waste from final disposable sites. इसमें भी यही लिखा है कि जैसे गार्बेज जो होता है हम कबाड़ी वाले को दे देते हैं, जैसे कि ओल्ड न्यूज़पेपर, मैगनीज बोटल्स, हम उनको सेल कर देते हैं और वो हमें पैसे दे देता है, ठीक है ना। और जो हमारे घरों में कंट्रीब्यूशन होता है वेस्ट का रिडक्शन का एंड द रिसाइकलिंग एंड रीयूज इन सर्टन आइटम्स टू कवर यू books, you can use old calendars, old greetings card and can also be reused. लाइक जो हमारे घरों में ओल्ड कैलेंडर होंगे, जैसे कि 2023 आज चल रहा है, 2022 के कैलेंडर्स हमारे पास, उनको हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं एज रिसाइकलिंग मटेरियल। जैसे कि हम उनको यूज़ कर सकते हैं कि हमारे बुक्स का कवर करने के लिए हम नए कवर ख़रीदने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। वही सब इसमें लिखा है। जैसे कि वाटर है, देखो स्कीमेटिक डायग्राम बिलो डिपिक्ट्स रिसाइकलिंग ऑफ वेस्ट। वाटर जो होता है लाइक प्राइमरी इंडस्ट्री है हमारी, प्राइमरी इंडस्ट्री कंज्यूमर इसमें इंक्लूड होता है और मिडल मैन इंक्लूड होता है, ठीक है। नाउ कंज्यूमर वाटर कंज्यूम करता है एंड वाटर रैग पिकर जंक डीलर्स, वाटर ऑल्सो इंक्लूड जंक डीलर्स। Waste recycling has some significant advantage, leads to less utilization of raw materials, reduces environmental impacts arising from waste treatment and disposal, makes the surroundings cleaner and healthier, saves on landfill space, saves money, reduces the amount of energy required to manufacture new products. In fact, recycling can prevent the creation of waste at the source. Now, this is the treatment and disposal of municipal waste. अब हमने देख लिया कैसे क्या जनरेट होता है, कैसे हम रिसाइकल कर सकते हैं, रीयूज़ कर सकते हैं। नाउ व्हाट इज़ द ट्रीटमेंट, अब इसका ट्रीटमेंट भी देख लेते हैं और डिस्पोजल देख लेते हैं म्युनिसिपल वेस्ट का। As cities are growing in size with a rise in the population, the amount of waste generated is increasing, becoming unmanageable. The local corporation have adapted different methods for the disposal of waste: open dumps, landfills, sanitary landfills, and incineration plants. One of the important methods of waste treatment is composting. Open dumps होता है, open dumps refer to uncovered area that are used to dump solid waste of all kinds, and landfills are generally located in urban areas where a large amount of waste is generated and has to be dumped in a common place. Unlike an open dump, it is a pit that is dug in the ground. The garbage is dumped and the pit is covered, thus preventing the breeding of flies and rats. Landfills have many problems. All types of waste is dumped in landfills, and when water seeps through them, it gets contaminated and in turn pollutes the surrounding area. The contamination of groundwater and soil through landfills is known as leaching. इसको हम लीचिंग मेथड बोलते हैं। नाउ सैनिटरी लैंडफिल्स क्या होता है, ऑल्टरनेटिव लैंडफिल्स होता है विच विल सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ लीचिंग टू सम एक्सटेंट। इज अ सैनिटरी लैंडफिल विच इज़ मोर हाइजेनिक एंड बुल्ड इन अ मेथोडिकल मैनर। ओके, जो these are lined with materials that are impermeable such as plastics and clay and are also built over impermeable soil. The rate of decomposition जो होता है sanitary landfills का is also extremely variable होता है ये. This can be due to fact that less oxygen is available as the garbage is compressed very tightly. अब जो कुछ कंट्रीज़ में जो होता है, जो मीथेन होता है वो प्रोड्यूस किया जाता है सैनिटरी लैंडफिल्स से, उसको ट्रैप किया जाता है और सोल्ड किया जाता है एज फ्यूल। नाउ इंसिनरेशन प्लांट्स क्या होता है, दिस प्रोसेस ऑफ बर्निंग वेस्ट इन लार्ज फर्नेसेस इज नोन एज incineration. In these plants, the recyclable material is segregated and the rest of the material is burnt. At the end of the process, all that is left behind is ash. During the process, some of the ash floats out with the hot air. This is called as fly ash. Both the fly ash and the ash that is left in the furnace after burning have high concentration of dangerous toxins such as dioxins and heavy metals. Disposing of this ash is a problem. The ash that is buried at the landfills leaves the area and cause severe contamination. Now this is important. Composting. Organic matter constitute 35% to 40% of the municipal solid waste generated in India. The waste can be recycled by the method of composting, one of the oldest form of disposal. It is a natural process of decomposition of organic waste that yields manure or compost, which is very rich in nutrients. Composting is a biological process in which microorganisms, mainly fungi and bacteria, convert degradable organic waste into humus like substances. This finished product, which looks like soil, is high in carbon and nitrogen and is an excellent medium for growing plants. The process of composting ensures the waste that is produced in the kitchens is not carelessly thrown and left to rot. It recycles the nutrients and returns them to the soil as nutrients. Apart from being clean, cheap, and safe, composting can significantly reduce the amount of disposable garbage. The organic fertilizer can be used instead of chemical fertilizer and is better especially when used for vegetables. It increases the soil's ability to hold water and makes the soil easier to cultivate. It helps the soil retain more of the plant nutrients. This is all written about the composting, about the pits. Now, what you can do to reduce solid waste? Carry your own cloth or jute bag when you go shopping. Say no to all plastic bags as far as possible. Reduce the use of paper bag also. Reuse the soft drinks, poly bottles for storing water. Segregate the waste in the house. Keep two garbage bins and see to it that the biodegradable and non biodegradable is put into separate bins and disposed of separately. Dig a compost pit in your garden and put all the biodegradable into it. See to it that all garbage is thrown into the municipal bin as the collection is generally done from there. When you go out, do not throw paper and other wrappings or even leftover food here and there. Make sure that it is put in the correct place, that is into a dustbin. As far as possible, try to sell all the recyclable items that are not required to the kabariwalas. हेल्थ इम्पैक्ट्स ऑफ सॉलिड वेस्ट. अब हमारी हेल्थ पे क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है इससे? Modernization and progress has had its share of disadvantage, and one of the main aspect of concern is the population it is causing to the earth, be it land, air, and water. With increase in the global population and the rising demand for food and other essentials, there has been a rise in the amount of waste being generated daily by each household. This waste is ultimately thrown into municipal waste collection centers, from where it is collected by the area municipalities to be further thrown into the landfills and dumps. However, either due to resource crunch or insufficient infrastructure, not all of this waste gets collected and transported to the final dump sites. If at this stage the management and disposal is improperly done, it can cause serious impact on health and problems that are surrounding environment. दिस इसी के बारे में लिखा है कि वेस्ट जो है प्रॉपरली मैनेज नहीं किया जा सकता, तो फिर हमारे साथ क्या होगा कि कैसी कैसी बीमारियां होंगी. लाइक प्लास्टिक वेस्ट इज़ another cause for ill health. Impacts of solid waste on health. The group at risk from the unscientific disposal of solid waste include the population in areas where there is no proper waste disposal method, especially the preschool children, waste workers, and workers in facilities producing toxic and infectious materials. Other high risk group include population living close to the waste dump and those whose water supply has become contaminated either due to waste dumping or leaking from landfill sites. Uncollected solid waste also increases risk of injury and infection. In particular, organic domestic waste poses a serious threat since they ferment, creating conditions favorable to the survival and growth of microbial pathogens. Direct holding of solid waste can result in various types of infectious and chronic diseases, with the waste workers and the rag pickers being the most vulnerable. Exposure to hazardous waste can affect human health. Children being more vulnerable to these pollutants. In fact, direct exposure can lead to diseases through chemical exposure, as the release of chemical waste into the environment leads to chemical poisoning. Many studies have been carried out in various parts of the world to establish a connection between health and hazardous waste. Waste from agriculture and industries can also cause serious health risks. Other than this, co-disposal of industrial hazardous waste with municipal waste can expose people to chemical and radioactive hazards. Uncollected solid waste can also obstruct storm water runoff, resulting in the forming of stagnant water bodies that become the breeding ground of disease. Waste dumps near a water source also causes contamination of the water body on or the groundwater source. Direct dumping of untreated waste in rivers, seas, and lakes results in the accumulation of toxic substances in the food chain through the plants and animals that feed on it. Disposal of hospital and other medical waste requires special attention since this can create major health hazards. This waste generated from the hospital, healthcare centers, medical laboratories, and research centers such as discarded syringe needles, bandage swabs, webs, plasters, and other types of infectious waste are often disposed with the regular non-infectious waste. रिसाइकलिंग जो होती है इट टू कैरीज हेल्थ रिस्क इफ प्रॉपर प्रिकॉशन हम नहीं लेंगे. नाउ डिजीज़ में आ जाता है केमिकल्स इफ रिलीज्ड अनट्रीटेड लाइक साइनाइड्स, मर्करी, polychlorinated biphenyls are highly toxic and exposure can lead to disease or death. The role of plastic. Unhygienic use and disposal of plastics and its effects on human health have become a matter of concern. Colored plastics are harmful as their pigment contains heavy metals that are highly toxic. Some of the harmful metals found in plastics are copper, lead, chromium, cobalt, selenium, cadmium. In most industrialized countries, colored plastics have been legally banned. In India, the government of Himachal Pradesh has banned the use of plastics, and so as Ladakh district. Other states should emulate their example. Preventive measures. Proper methods of waste disposal have to be undertaken to ensure that it does not affect the environment around the area or cause health hazards to the people living there. At the household level, proper segregation of waste has to be done and it should be ensured that all organic matter is kept aside for composting, which is undoubtedly the best method for the correct disposal of this segment of the waste. In fact, the organic part of the waste that is generated decomposes more easily, attracts insects, and causes diseases. Organic waste can be composted and then used as a fertilizer. Now, this is the Surat, a success story. The rapid urbanization and rise in population in Surat led to the growth of slums, increase in garbage and overflowing drains. In 1994, Surat was struck by an outbreak of a virulent disease, somewhat like the plague. The disease caused panic countrywide, and while the citizens blamed the municipality, the civic authorities in turn blamed the citizens for their lack of civic sense. It was a harsh reminder of what negligence in the area of solid waste management can lead to. But what was most amazing was that within a span of 18 months, the city made a complete revival from a dirty garbage strewn street to become one of the cleanest streets in the country. This transformation was possible thanks largely to the Surat Municipal Corporation and the efforts of the community. Community participation played a key role in the rapid implementation of decisions taken by the corporation. Subsequently to the disaster, the attitudes of the citizens changed and they diligently tried to improve its living conditions. Institutional changes were the first thing to happen. The city was divided into 6 zones to decentralize the responsibility of all civic functions. A commissioning was appointed for each zone with additional powers. The officers responsible for solid waste management were made accountable for their work and field visits were made mandatory for them each day. The solid waste management department and other relevant departments were made to work and cooperate with one another. Grievance redressal cards were issued to people so that complaints could be registered. The complaint was attended to within 24 hours and the card returned to the citizen. In addition to the administrative change, the changed laws had an important role to play in improving the conditions by also making the citizens aware of and responsible for certain preventive actions. Indeed, these are some of the very basic changes that need to be introduced in the functioning of all urban bodies. Initially, the Gujarat government's Municipal Act did not have any provision to penalize littering. However, after the plague, the government realized that it was important to impose such a penalty in order to make people aware of their responsibility in maintaining their streets cleanliness. Thereafter, a fine of rupees 50 was imposed for every offence of littering, and it was doubled for every subsequent offence. The city roads were swept twice a day, and the corporation, in an appreciable attempt, has engaged private sweepers to cover different inner areas of the town. Private contractors are also actively involved in the transport, collection, and disposal of solid waste. With this vigorous cleanliness drive through regular garbage collection and sweeping of roads and other public areas undertaken by the municipal corporation, success was achieved. But this successful turnaround could not have been achieved without the support and cooperation of the people. Surat has thus become a model city and working of its municipality, an example for other municipal corporations to follow and implement in their respective cities. Now these are the findings. Waste management at Delhi. About 5,000 meter of municipal solid waste is generated every day in Delhi. Disposal is mainly in landfills. 14 landfill sites has already been filled up. Four landfill sites at Gazipur, Balswa, Hasthal and Okhla are operational present, though these will get soon filled. According to a recent study by the National Environment Engineering Research Institute, Nagpur, the expected quantity of solid waste generated in Delhi would be about 12750 tons per day by 2025. Due to growing pressure on land in Delhi and a projected increase in the quantum of solid waste, the scope for disposal through landfill sites is limited. Too much land is being consumed, accompanied by increasing danger of ground and surface water contamination. Contagious groundwater sources indicate high total resolved solids concentration. Solid waste samples from the surface and various depths of the landfills have been found to contain high levels of fecal coliforms and fecal streptococci. Other best practices in disposal technologies will have to be adopted on a large scale, including aerobic composting, vermiculture, pelletization, incineration, etc. The private sector needs to be accorded a great role. In recent times, the spotlight has also been on the problem of managing plastic waste and the increasing hazards posed to human health from biomedical wastes. The Supreme Court had heard a public interest litigation on the subject of solid waste management by the municipal agencies. Due to organizational deficiencies and financial constraints, the municipal agencies have not been able to deliver satisfactory results. The court directed the Municipal Corporation of Delhi to improve the performance of the solid waste management system. The CPCP will submit reports from the time to time. The National Environment Engineering Research Institute was retained by MCD to prepare a report suggesting solutions and defining an action plan. NERI studies. Variation in composition of garbage. A systems approach in managing solid waste is also necessitated in view of the variation in the composition of garbage from area to area. The waste composition has a bearing in the extent of recycling possible. The variation is brought out in the statement of placed below. Now, conclusion. The problem of solid waste management in Delhi is assuming serious proportions due to increasing population, urbanization, changing lifestyles, and consumption patterns. The garbage from unauthorized development, slums, JJ settlements extra is not collected, which further adds to the environmental degradation. The projected average garbage generation up to the year 2025 is 0.68 kg per capita per day, and total quantum of solid waste is 15750 tons per day. Now, today, Delhi stands at crossroads. The problems are huge and complex, yet there are several unique opportunities which can be explored in turnaround development of the national capital. These opportunities demand a paradigm shift in planning and urban management so as to pave the way in building of new partnerships. For this, the critical areas are formulating a new hybrid land policy, planning in the larger context of the region, a facilitating approach to land use zoning, incentivizing self-starting redevelopment and regeneration, restricting the city based on mass transport and public-private partnership to augment physical infrastructure. Well devised policies and strategy will certainly help in making Delhi a world class city. Now this is bibliography, white paper on population in Delhi with an action plan, Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Paryavaran Bhavan, CGO Complex, Lodi Road, New Delhi. Namita Gupta and Rajiv Gupta, Shyamala Mani and Satpal Singh, Sustainable Municipal Solid Waste Management in India. Sudha Gol, Municipal Solid Waste Management in India. Rajkumar Joshi and Sirajuddin Ahmad, Status and Challenge of Municipal Solid Waste Management in India. Som Datta Banerjee, Scope of Private Participation in Municipal Solid Waste Management, The Cost of India. Satpal Singh, Decentralized Solid Waste Management in India, Integrated Modeling of Solid Waste in India by Rai Garla. Occupational hazards associated with waste handling, infections, skin and blood infection resulting from direct contact with waste and from infected wounds, eye and respiratory infection resulting from exposure to infected dust, especially during landfill operations, different diseases that result from the bites of animals feeding on the waste, intestinal infection that are transmitted by flies feeding on the waste, chronic diseases. Incineration operators are at high risk chronic respiratory diseases including cancer resulting from exposure to dust and hazardous compounds, accidents, bone and muscle disorders resulting from the handling of heavy containers, infecting wounds resulting from contact with sharp objects, poisoning and chemical burns resulting from contact with small amounts of hazardous chemical waste mixed with general waste, burns and other injuries resulting from occupational accidents at waste disposal sites or from methane gas explosion at landfill sites. Now composting, some benefits, sorry. Compost allows the soil to retain more plant nutrients over a longer period. It supplies part of the 16 essential elements needed by the plants. It helps reduce the adverse effect of excessive alkalinity, acidity, or the excessive use of chemical fertilizer. It makes soil easier to cultivate. It helps keeps the soil cool in summer and warm in winter. It aids in preventing soil erosion by keeping the soil covered. It helps in controlling the growth of weeds in the garden. Now see this 4 R's, that is reuse, refuse, recycle and reduce, to be followed for waste management. Refuse, instead of buying new containers from the market, use the ones that are in the house. Refuse to buy new items, though you may think they are prettier than the ones you already have. Reuse, do not throw away the soft drink cans or the bottles. Cover them with homemade paper or paint them and use them as pencil stands or small vases. Recycle, use shopping bags made of cloth or jute which can be used over and over again. Will this come under recycle or reduce? Segregate your waste to make sure that it is collected and taken for recycling. Reduce the generation of unnecessary waste. Example, carry your own shopping bag when you go to the market and put all your purchases directly into it. Okay, that's all. It was a long video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.